Hey, good morning. This is John from John Asch Contracting, third generation residential roofing contractor. These are some videos for our WaCkY Wednesday. We're going to do a couple short videos about my father, John Asch Sr. This is not scripted. It's just coming out of my head from wherever it comes out. It's not in any particular order. It's not for any rhyme or reason, just whatever spews out. Here it comes. So my dad told me many stories, obviously, when he was alive over the decades, and I'm trying to remember some of them. I remember in New Brunswick, when he was very, very young, like 7, 8, 9 years old. New Brunswick looked a lot different than it does now, and where they have the plays and the theaters now used to be a movie theater. And my dad would tell me he would hang out at the front of the theater, and he needed 10 cents to enter. And for 10 cents, you get the newsreel. You would then get cartoons, and then you would get 2 feature-length films. So a lot of the kids from the neighborhood back in the day, we're talking, I guess, in the 40s or 50s, whatever, would, for a dime, be busy for the whole afternoon. But getting a dime, that was the hard part. So my dad said he'd be out front of the theater and he'd wait for what he thought was a wealthy woman to walk by wearing a mink coat or whatever, and he'd start crying. And as she approached him, oftentimes she would say, "Hey, little boy, what's the matter?" And my dad would say, "I'm trying to go to the movies and I'm 3 or 4 cents short. I almost have enough." And the lady would give him a nickel. When he get enough money, but he would keep on doing this and keep on crying and get maybe 30, 40 cents. And then now with the extra money, he'd be buying candy, popcorn, soda, and invite some of his friends in. So this was something he would do, and one of the earliest, youngest stories he told me. He also told me back in the day, he saw Bela Lugosi doing a live show at the State Theater. And for your older people, I'm sure you know who Bela Lugosi is. Another story, when my dad was older, he lived in East Brunswick, and they had a farm that was given to them for free by the United States government. And the reason why they got the farm, they would grow crops or cows or whatever they grew, and twice a year the government would send somebody down and take a percentage of what they had. And they got the land for free and kept it for free as long as they kept the deal going. So my dad, as a young age, he'd have to milk the cows and feed chickens and do things in the farm and corn and whatnot. It wasn't a gigantic farm, it was a number of acres, and he would do that every day before school. Of course, it was hard to do that before school, and at around 7th or 8th grade, he dropped out of school because of all the farm work that he had to do. And here's part 2 of the video. So on the farm, my dad eventually had to quit going to school, take care of the farm. He had a mom and dad and 3 sisters. His mother died, my grandmother, when he was very young, somewhere around 10 years old. And as he grew up, he was the only boy in the family, so he had to take care of all the farm stuff, so he couldn't really go to school. He had to help feed the sisters and his father, my grandfather. Now, this farmhouse was right next to the Mid-State Mall, in between Route 18 and Old Bridge Turnpike. If you drive there now and take the street right across from the Mid-State Mall, you'll see a little ground where kids play, a little playground. Sorry, getting old and decrepit. And where that playground is now was the original house, and it was the only house that was there originally. Then as the kids grew up and got married, this and that, little by little, they would give a little piece of land away, and they would have a little shack that they first had back then. Nobody had money, and they would eventually build a house. So initially, the whole area went from one house to, as it is now, maybe 60, 70 houses. And back in the 50s and 60s, it was all of my dad's relatives, mostly relatives, and everybody knew everybody. There might only be 2 or 3 last names in a whole area. And of course, over the decades, people moved away and everybody lost touch. But that's what happened in that particular little area over there. My mom moved from Pennsylvania in the Wilkes-Barre area, and she was married to a guy who wouldn't work. And she had a child up there that I didn't know about. And my mom, she was willing to work. She moved to New Jersey to get a job and find an apartment. And the idea was her husband, back in the day, would follow her and move down. That didn't work out, whole nother story. But while my mom was in New Jersey, and ultimately it wasn't going to work out between her first husband, who had my stepbrother, and they broke up. My mom happened to walk in one day to use the bathroom in a place called the Rendezvous Inn, which I've never seen it before my time, on Route 18 in East Brunswick. Met my father there at the Rendezvous Inn, and here I am. You get it? Met my father, my mom, and then me. You got it. So that's how they got together. When my dad was about 16 or 17, he was a pretty big guy, big for his age, and he was working at the Howard Johnson's, which was at the corner of Route 1 and Route 18. And now it's kind of a Chinese Korean restaurant across from the car wash. When my dad worked there as a chef's helper, got to eat for free, liked his job, and my dad often got in fights. He was a tough dude when he was younger. Things were tough times back when things were younger, and he got in fights a lot and won them a lot.